Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has been giving a briefing this afternoon outlining the country's revised electricity pricing policy to establish a transparent tariff path, if you will, that will provide greater certainty for electricity users over the next decade. That's to provide greater certainty for users at least over a decade. At that briefing this afternoon, the minister said that the policy will also introduce a cost-effective framework to guide the pricing of electricity. It is expected to give guidance to NERSA, that's the national energy regulator, and Eskom as the dominant player in the electricity sector. Let's take this further then with energy analyst Chris Yelland joining us on SABC News. Welcome back to SABC News. Chris, good to see you. Are we then finally on the verge of an electricity pricing revolution that favours you and I as consumers?
Well, I think we're going to have to wait a few more days because it was really very unclear what the minister had to say. There was a lot of vagueness. And there were a lot of technical problems with the broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. And thank goodness for the SABC, because we were finally, only able to watch the media briefing from remote on SABC. So well done to SABC. But in the middle of the broadcast, after the minister's main speech, the SABC stopped broadcasting. So I missed the first part of the media briefing and I missed the second half of the media briefing. So it's really a little unclear, but fortunately, I'm told that the full electricity pricing policy document should be out by the end of this week, and then we'll have a chance to look at the details more critically.
So let me then, from what you missed from that briefing, some of the things that are in this policy, it would be cost-reflective tariffs, so aligning pricing with actual costs across generation, transmission, distribution, as well as retail. There would be a 10-year pricing forecast. That is basically the introduction of long-term visibility, which is meant to help the households and businesses to be able to plan, to factor in any sort of increase, and then protecting the poor by expanding the baseline for free basic electricity without increasing the national tax burden. On just those 3 points then, are we headed in the right direction?
Well, I must say it's still very unclear. Just let me give you one example. The minister says that with free basic electricity, they're going to increase the free basic electricity allowance by a factor of 6 times, 4 to 6 times. But at the same time, they're not going to increase the burden on the fiscus. Now, we know that about 80% of people that qualify for free basic electricity that are indigent are not getting it because municipalities, they misappropriate the money. But, if you put up the price, the free basic electricity from 50 kilowatt hours to 300 kilowatt hours or 200 kilowatt hours, that increases the amount, that is going to have to come from the fiscus. But okay, 80% of what comes from the fiscus is being misappropriated. But if that money is fixed from the fiscus, that is at about 28 billion rand per year, and you simply increase the free basic electricity allowance per customer by a factor of 6, it means you are still going to, in the end, not be supplying 80% of the people that qualify for indigent. If you supply all indigent households with 300 kilowatt hours of electricity, the price from the fiscus just has to go up dramatically. So it's really not clear, the details. And hopefully the details will become clearer when we see the document. The same applies to the cost reflectivity. He says they're going to make all the prices cost reflective, and that means removing the cross subsidies. Now, the cross subsidies are cross subsidies to the poor. If you remove those cross subsidies, the price of electricity, the poor will go up very dramatically, and the price of electricity for the wealthy will go down. Because it is the wealthier customers that are subsidizing the poorer customers. Bigger customers are subsidizing smaller customers. Urban customers are subsidizing rural customers. So if you take away the cross subsidies, it means rural customers will pay more, poor customers will pay more, small customers will pay more. And I just don't see where all this is going.
So is it clear to you then, Chris, and with the caveat that we're working on very scant detail at this point this afternoon, is it clear to you who will be the biggest winner, shall we say, from these revisions made to the pricing policy?
It's not clear to me, to be honest. I mean, there's too much being promised to too many with too little detail about where the money is coming from. So, for example, another area that the minister focused on was expanding the special pricing agreements with the entire smelting industry. At the moment, this special low tariff of 62 cents per kilowatt hour, which is well below cost, is only being offered to two companies, two smelting companies. But the minister said they want to expand this subsidized electricity to a much wider group of industrial players.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to understand if you're giving away more free basic electricity to the poor, you're giving away highly subsidized electricity, to smelting industry. There's no clear indication of where the money is coming from,
Right.
except that the minister says it's not coming from the fiscus.
A quick final one, managing or capping the surcharges that we have to pay to residential complexes, estates, as well as landlords. Will that help to put money back in our pockets?
I'm not really clear on the extent of these overcharges that the minister is referring to, but I'm sure it does happen, not only in gated communities where the landlord effectively gets a bulk discount and sells it at prices of electricity higher than Eskom or the municipal price. I'm sure that does happen in certain cases. But he also referred to, in the case of township dwellings where there is renting out of a backyard room, the householder takes electricity from the municipality, puts on a significant markup, and sells it to a very poor tenant in a backyard room. I'm sure these things do happen. He says they're going to clamp down on this and avoid this sort of overcharging that is detrimental, to people in certain gated communities and in backyard dwellings in townships. So that, I think, is something to be welcomed if they can get control and get a grip on this. But it's not an easy thing to administer. Certainly in the township environment, and where there's a lot of illegal connections and where backyard customers are being supplied by the householder at extremely high prices. It's very hard to police this.
Chris Yelland, good to talk to you, energy analyst, joining us on SABC News.